This is our last session on this journey, and today, I'll start with a very quick recap of what we talked about in the last session, but then we will finish the journey, and now we are going to be on the return part of the journey. Last time we reached our destination, and so we are now returning from the destination. And then I'll do a quick summary of everything that we covered, and just remind ourselves of the key things that we hopefully took away from this, and summarize it, and then we can finish there. Okay, so I'll start sharing some slides. So hopefully you can see that. This is the third section. And as I said, this covers the return of the leg of the journey of Salah. And you know, through this whole thing, we've gone through various stages of approaching Allah. And now, having reached there in the sajda, especially the second sajda, then we will start to return. But if you remember, you know, we've talked about each of the stages of salah. We talked about the different types of tajalli that happens, and the one that we discussed in the last session was tajalli al-dhati, which leads to a state of fana, where we are not aware of anything other than him and ourselves. That's in the first sajda. And then in the second sajda, we have another tajalli dhati, where we are so absorbed in our attention on him that we are not even aware of ourselves, and that is referred to as al-fana an al-fana, so not even aware of the fana itself. And so that's part of what we discussed last time. And in the previous sessions, we had talked about these two important milestones in the Irfani journey, okay? And that's, the first one is the fana, which is where we arrived. It's a very important milestone. It's the stage in which really our entire being gets purified and transformed, moving away from the false self. That was something else we also talked about last time, differentiating between your true self and the false self. The true self being the ruh, being that pure consciousness that you are aware with. And then everything else, body, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your personality, all of that is the false you. It's not the real you. And that's what we are getting rid of when we get to fana. And only that true self remains. That's fana. Now, the return, what happens after that fana, is the state of baqa. Okay, the state of baqa billah. Now, here we come back to our world, aware of everything in this world, but having been transformed now. That's why it's baqa billah. From here on, everything we do billah, with Allah, through Allah. Nothing of that old self remains, only the true self. And another name for that, they refer to it as the stage of as-sahw ba'd al-mahw. Okay, sahw meaning the reawakening after being wiped away, wiped out, mahw. So you're wiped away in fana, that false self is wiped away, and then what reawakens is the ruh in the state of baqa billah. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that, because now we will come out of the sajda, and then we will go towards the tashahhud and salam, where we end the salah. And those two steps, the tashahhud and the salam, are the stages of baqa billah and sah wa ba'd al-mahr. Okay, so in summary, this stage of baqa is the return to multiplicity, to the world of al-kathra. Okay, remember we started our journey in the world of kathra, right? Our normal day-to-day world, we see many things in this world. That's kathra, multiplicity of different types of objects. We see even our own body is an object, our own minds and the thoughts and feelings that we see in our minds. Those are also many types of objects. That's the world of kathra. And the whole journey is a journey from this kathra towards that wahda, pure oneness. And that's where we arrived. In fana, we are arriving at wahda. There's no more awareness of kathra. That's why, in fact, in sajda, I think I mentioned this, but just to make sure, we said that even physically, you don't see anything else when you put your head down to the ground. So it's representing that all of this manyness, kathra, is wiped away from your awareness. You only experience oneness. Well, that should have an impact on you. So, نوع من تأثير الفناء is that when we come back to this world, we will come back to kathra, but it will be very different. If we have really experienced fana, then our consciousness, our minds, our body, everything will have become transformed in a way. We're not the same person that went into the sajda. The one that comes out is a different being. Okay. And one of the key things that we learn over time is to be able to see oneness in multiplicity and multiplicity in oneness. Al-wahda fil kathra and al-kathra fil wahda. Okay? At the same time. That's the challenge we have, so that we are never unaware of Allah. We don't just look at an object. I look at the sun or the moon or the earth or a tree, and I see those objects and I don't see Allah. I should not be tricked by the kathra and lose sight of the wahda. We have to see both at the same time. Now, some examples that they give, and why I've put this picture here, is that it's like seeing the water and wave at the same time. Okay, so when you look at this picture, normally what happens, we focus on the forms, the shape of the water. Oh, look, here's one wave. Over there is another wave. At the back, I see another wave. There's a smaller wave at the front. That's what I focus on. I see waves, right? That's kathra. But actually, if you change the way that you look at it, just your perspective, just change that. The whole thing is just water. There's nothing else there. There's only water. Okay? There's only water. But somehow, when we're focusing on wave, we lose sight of the fact that it's water. Right? And the opposite can happen. You can train yourself to only focus on water and you don't even notice the waves. So baqa is the skill, the vision, the ability to see both, be aware of both the wave and the water at the same time. Other examples of this are gold and ornaments. Okay, so if you have earrings made of gold, you have a bracelet made of gold, and you have a necklace made of gold. Okay, obviously, when you see these things, wow, you look at the beautiful shape, the design of the necklace or the earring, and you get completely absorbed in that. Wow, what a beautiful earring. What a beautiful necklace. Not really focused on the fact that it's all made of gold. It's all gold. The only thing that's there is gold, if it's just a gold ornament, right? So then the one who has reached baqa has the ability to see that it is gold and this is a necklace, whereas that is an earring and this is a bracelet, and he can distinguish between them at the same time. And the example I gave previously also is the ink and the words. So when we look at a page of writing, we see words. Automatically, we start reading words and sentences and paragraphs and meanings and all of this. Of course, that's true. But actually, what's on the page is only ink. It's only ink. So change the way you see it so that you are aware you are looking at words and letters and sentences, but you're also seeing the ink that's there. Okay? This is baqa. Now, when it applies to the world, when we look at everything in this world, after coming out of fana, everything I see it as madhar liwujud Allah. Okay? It is manifestation of his being. And this is exactly what Imam Ali says. ما رأيت شيئا إلا ورأيت الله قبله وبعده ومعه وفي. You see, he doesn't see anything without seeing Allah there, always. Not as creator, but as a manifestation. Okay, so this is the idea of baqa that we're seeking to reach. And this is symbolized through the tashahhud. So when we lift our head from the sajda, now we've finished the sajda, you're coming back from the state of fana. You are returning to this world of kathra. And you sit. And here we say the tashahhud. And what does the tashahhud really represent? Is a couple of things. First of all, basically, we are confirming, you're affirming, you are establishing that you have experienced that state of fana and you are in the state of baqa directly. That's why we say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu. You are bearing witness. How can you bear witness for something you haven't seen? You're not really a truthful witness unless you have seen something. Only then you can be a witness. So it is confirmation that you have been witnessing this oneness. And at the same time, all of this, if you notice, all the way through the salah, we were following the Hadith Qudsi, where it talks about the Mi'raj, Rasulullah's journey, his spiritual journey, where he told us every step of the way what happened and why we say, you know, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim or Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, what happened to him, what happened there. We're following in his footsteps. And so, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh is part of this confirmation. You are stating the truth of what you have seen. Okay, and followed those footsteps step by step. That's the tashahhud. It is confirmation of what we have already experienced. Then we come to as-salam. It's a beautiful part of the salah, actually. Probably we don't pay too much attention to it, but actually the whole fruit of the salah is here. You know, the first part of it is, I've been calling this whole thing a journey, the journey of salah. We're going on a journey and we're returning from a journey. What do you do when you return from a journey? Okay, it's only polite etiquette to greet people after you've come back from a journey. You say salam to them, you greet them because you have returned from a journey. So you are saying salam to Rasulullah wa ibadullah al-mukhlasin al-salihin, all of these things, because you have returned from this journey to the world of oneness, and now you are back. And why salam? Because that is the ultimate truth of being, of his wujud. He is a salam. Yeah? Anta salam, wa minka salam, wa alayka salam. So even in the world where we come back to, the world of multiplicity, things changing, ups and downs, everything going on, but now, having been through fana, we have tasted that inner peace that lies within us, which is a reflection of his peace, his salam, and that's the fruit of our journey. It's another word for happiness. Salam is another word for happiness, peace and happiness. And that's the fruit of what we are doing on this journey. From the beginning, we said, this is all for you to achieve happiness. And happiness and peace are the same thing. And that's what you're left with, an ultimate sense of deep peace that cannot be broken. Okay, so that's the significance of the salam. And this is what we should do as an inner practice within ourselves, experience that peace, that practice of pure being that we did, that I am practice. If you spend time on that I am, that witness, you will experience a peace that doesn't exist in this world. It is always there with you. It is never actually disturbed. The mind can get disturbed day to day, ups and downs. That's the mind. That's not you. I repeat it so many times. That mind, those thoughts, that person who thinks constantly, that's not you. That mind can get disturbed. But the ruh is never disturbed. It is always in a state of pure, unbroken peace. It is the nature of the ruh. And so this is what you are stating here. This is the salam that you are left with. It is the ultimate fruit of the salah. Because once you have that salam, nothing in this world can disturb you. Nothing can break your happiness, because that's the real you, and that real you is always in that state of salam. Okay, so that's actually the whole story. That's the end of the journey, and this is the fruit and the ultimate purpose that we've been going through this. Now, I'll just go through a summary of what we've discussed, what we've covered, just to bring it all together as a reminder. And I'll point to some of the things that I think are the biggest conclusions, or the most important things that I would like you to take away. Inshallah, you've benefited from this, but there are some specific things that I consider to be the most important, and I'll share some of those with you here. So we started by saying that separation and a feeling of being a small, separate self is the ultimate source of your unhappiness. And that the purpose of salah is for you to achieve happiness. And that we're doing by reaching this connection with Allah, with the infinite, which is ultimately always at peace and complete and full and naturally joyful. That's one point. Another point is that the successful salah, remember from the beginning, I said that it is all down to the preparation work. 70–80% of the success of salah comes from everything you do before you start the salah. I just want to remind you of that. We spend a lot of time on the preparation part. And if you do that right, you can then carry that state of mind, that state of awareness into the salah itself, and everything else will flow. If you do the work up front before the salah, everything else will flow naturally after that. Okay. Now, that separation that we're talking about, remember we spent some time talking about how it's this thinking mind and our identification. We think we are this voice in our head that's having all these thoughts. That is the cause of your separation. It is the cause why you don't feel present and you don't feel his presence. So what we focused on is how to break out of that thinking mind and identification with it. And we used the body as a stepping stone, right? Bodily attention. We learned how to shift our conscious awareness to the body and maintain our attention in the body rather than up in the mind. And that we learned how that can be sustained for much longer, much more stable than mental attention. Okay. And so that's a practice that we learned. And that's one of the key things I will take away from this course. We also use the breath meditation, which I hope everyone makes part of their every single day. In fact, I would say every single salah should have some breath meditation to begin with. Is crucial for developing deep concentration. Many, many levels of concentration can be developed through the use of that breath. Then, and you see this beautiful image I have here, Man arifa nafsah faqad arifa rabbah. It's a summary of everything we've talked about in a way. Because I keep repeating to you, you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are this ruh that is witnessing both the body and the mind. Once you know that, then you will know Allah. That ruh that is connected to Allah at all times. That's your gateway to Allah. Okay, so we use this practice of pure being, I am, the I am practice, to connect to that ruh. And I won't repeat this part again, but because we've just covered it, but the salah is a journey to oneness, and we are eliminating this false I, leaving just that ruh, that true I. And once that purification is done, then we will be able to witness Allah. Whether it's multiplicity or oneness, you will be able to see him there the whole time. In every experience that you have, that experience will be accompanied by that awareness of his presence. Okay, so just an overall key insights or takeaways I would leave you with from this course. All right, and then we went through the steps again, just to summarize them. We talked about the breath and the body scan, two crucial techniques, practical techniques that you can use to change your consciousness. Your mind learns to become concentrated and present using these techniques. Do them regularly as much as you can. You'll see amazing results from it. From there, we moved on to tahara, inner purity, because our minds day to day, moment by moment, hour by hour, they become contaminated by being so focused on objects, manipulating objects, touching objects. And so when we do the wudu, we use the water to purify our attention, turning our attention away from the world towards those objects, away from those objects, anything that is distracting you from him. You wash away all of the impressions that have been created on your mind and your awareness through the day. You wash those away and create an emptiness inside that now can be filled with his presence. Then we did the turning towards the Qibla itself. Okay, this, you should make it a conscious act. Consciously turn towards the Qibla means turning away from the world, towards the one. And we did this practice of make the world disappear as though it doesn't exist. Only you and him are there. Nothing else is there. Do this as an inner practice. You can do it within yourself. We then talked about the adhan as being a beautiful invitation to enter into his presence. He is inviting us to come. Enjoy that. Everyone loves to be invited. Enjoy being invited. We then went to the niyyah. And there we said again, this needs to be a very conscious moment. So break out of your autopilot and reestablish what is the niyyah. The niyyah is for qurba. And that niyyah for qurba has to be with ikhlas, pure sincerity, that this is what I want. And recognizing that this is what's going to make me happy. Okay, so that was the niyyah. Then we did the standing at the door and performing that test to see whether you do experience that beautiful sweetness when you feel that he has accepted you and you feel that presence and that acceptance. Then you can enter directly. If you don't feel it, then your sincerity has not reached a high enough level. And so there you should stand with a broken heart, munkasir al-qalb. And that should move you so that, again, you will feel that he accepts you, but it's a different level. It's a different flavor of salah at that point. It's inkisar. And that's another channel or a gateway into hudur. We then talked about the takbir. Takbir, very importantly, all the way through salah, when we do takbir, we are saying, I'm going to say some things that use his names, his attributes, his sifat. I will talk about Allah as he has told us to, but I always recognize it is impossible to truly know Allah. Only Allah knows Allah. And the takbir is Allahu Akbar min an yusaf. And this lifting of the hands with the takbir is lifting all of those different hujub, different veils between you and him. And we covered the takbirat al-iftitahiyya, which remove veil after veil after veil, taking you closer and closer to him. We then did take a look at the overall framework of Irfan, and we talked about the levels of wujud and the maratib al-wujud, levels of wujud, of wahidiyya, which was the level of the sifat wa asma, the names and attributes of Allah. Ahadiyya, it's a level above that where there is only oneness. All of those different names are merged into one reality, haqiqa wahida, al-haqiqat al-ahadiyya. And then above that, the Dhat Allah, which is totally unknowable. We talked about the stages of the journey and two key milestones, al-fana and baqa, which we just discussed now as well, and the different forms of tajalli. These are ways that Allah reveals himself to us and lifts us to a different level of experiencing his presence, and different types of tajalli. Al-fi'li, so the manifestation of his actions, and then as-sifati, his attributes, and then manifestation of the dhat, al-tajalli al-dhati. And this hopefully helped us to then understand some of these terms when we went through the different steps of the salah. So we began in the qiyam position and doing the Fatiha. And in the Fatiha, if you remember, it's a dialogue. After every ayah, he responds to us. So you pause and give an opportunity to hear that response. Treat it like a dialogue. Don't just recite a monologue. Listen to the response that comes. And then the takbir, every time we do, when we finish a particular stage or a step in salah, we do a takbir to then say, whatever I said, whatever I described Allah as, He is beyond that. So we do takbir again and lift those hands again, revealing that we are empty-handed, unable to reach him in his essence. In the dot, it's impossible to know. The ruku' then comes next, and this is an intermediate step between qiyam and the sajda, and it represents this the sifat Allah, which is between the dhat and the af'al, and we immerse ourselves in his attributes. Al-'azama, this is the most primary sifa or attribute, is al-'azama in this point. Okay. Then lifting again our heads from the ruku' again represents that whatever the sifat are below the dhat. Dhat is a higher level, and so we seek to approach him even more. We lift the head from the ruku', and we do another takbir, saying this is not enough. Even this is not enough. We want more qurba, and we're prepared to move to the qurba. I mentioned again, and I'll repeat again, that practice of pure being can really, I mean, for me personally, it literally changed my life. That's why I recommend it to everyone. Seeing and being that witness within you, experiencing your own ruh, will be something that really changes the way you feel and experience life and prepares you for the sajda. Because in the sajda, you have to be that witness, not the body, not the mind. You should not be aware of those. It's just your hudur and his hudur. That's what the first sajda is about, eliminating all other objects and then opening up just your presence within his presence. Okay, and then when we come out of the first sajda, we pause, hold on to that awareness of just your being and his being, your presence and his presence. Okay, nothing else. You hold on to that. But what he demands goes beyond even this. What he demands is pure oneness. So what we do here is istighfar, because you're still holding on to your own being, your own awareness. You're still aware of yourself. You should be absorbed entirely in him, in his awareness. And that's what happens in the second sajda. We direct our entire attention to his dhat, and only then can we be fully absorbed in him, only aware of his presence, his wujud, not even aware of ourself. That's the extent of which we should be concentrated and entirely throwing ourselves into that sajda. And as we just talked about today, when you lift the head from the second sajda, now we are returning from that state of fana and fana an al-fana back to kathra. Sahhu ba'd al-mahu, we reawaken, but now without the false identification with the body and the mind. We no longer fall into that trap, and we can see wahda and kathra entirely clearly. Tashahhud then just confirms, you bear witness, I have experienced this. I have seen and witnessed the oneness, and I have followed in the steps of the perfect one. And the salam, again, coming back from that journey, we greet everyone. I have come back from a wonderful journey. I'm back with you, and I have now achieved a state of pure peace, happiness, joy that is unaffected by anything else. We've reestablished that within ourselves, and we've taken away that fruit, which sets us up to go out into the world and not be disturbed by the ups and downs of life, because we know that deep within there is a peace that is not affected by any of this. That's true happiness. And in fact, I will end with a few comments on peace and happiness, because that is really the objective. But before I do that, I have kind of flashed this roadmap a few times, didn't spend too much time on it, but hopefully you can recognize now. It starts at the bottom here, where we start in that state of separation, al-firaq, and then all of the preparation we did, the preparatory steps of the hudur and the tahara and the qibla and the adhan and the niyyah and the takbirat. All of this is what is represented by this diagram, right? We covered all of this. Then in the qiyam, we talked about the tajalli al-fi'li and the mukhataba huduriyya, represented by iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Mukhataba huduriyya. That's the key there. We then move to ruku', which is a tajalli safati. Then we go to the sajda. And in the sajda, all of the sajda number 1, sajda number 2, we have the tajalli dhati, which leads to both the state of fana and fana anil fana. That's what all of this represents. And then when we come out of the sajda, we have reached the level of sahwu ba'd al-mahw. And from there on, we are in qiyam. We are in baqa. From here on forwards, all of this is baqa, including the tashahhud and including the salam. We remain in the state of baqa billah. Okay, so that's the roadmap. Hopefully now that we've covered all the steps in a bit of detail, it kind of makes sense what all of this represents. And the final thing, as I said, I would like to end with is just a few words on peace and happiness, because, as I said, that's the ultimate goal. The salah is directed towards that. That's what it's for. And I've included a couple of quotes from two of the teachers who I've learned so much from. One of them says, "Where there is emptiness, there is silence. Where there is silence, there is peace. Where there is peace, there is contentment. Where there is contentment, there is love. And where there is love, there is truth." It's beautiful. And it starts with emptiness. Emptiness. We talked about that emptiness so many times. Our job is to empty our conscious awareness and allow that hudur to happen. And all of the techniques we learned about breathing and body scan and I am, all of that is to empty everything else. And all of this will follow after that. From emptiness will come silence. The silence will lead to peace, and so on. All of this will come. It all starts with emptiness. And finally, a beautiful quote, that when happiness is veiled, desire arises. When desire is fulfilled, happiness is revealed. Okay, the words here are very carefully chosen. Happiness is veiled because, as I said before, the ruh is always happy. That happiness is always there. It's just veiled. It's covered by the mind and the body and the false self. And it veils that happiness, so you don't feel the happiness. You feel ups and downs of life. And when that feeling is there, desire arises, right? Hubb ad-dunya arises, because you don't experience that happiness that's always there. It's been veiled from you. So you start chasing things, thinking that things are going to bring me happiness. Then when you receive those things, the desire is fulfilled. What happens is that the veil is removed. Happiness is revealed. You don't make happiness. Happiness is not created in you. It's always there. It's just veiled. You remove this veil and the happiness is revealed. It's always there. It's just revealed. Salah is all about this. This is exactly what we're doing. We're removing all these veils to reveal that ruh that is always at peace and happiness and directly connected to Allah and never disturbed by anything that's happening in life. All right, with that, I'll stop here. And thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.